Hi, this is Nick Arsenault, and welcome to the Nick Arsenault podcast. So success. I was able to record a podcast using my Bluetooth earbud while driving in the car. There's a huge benefit to this because now it opens up a big world of opportunity for me to record while I'm driving. Safely, of course, but because it's no different than if I were to be talking on the phone to anybody. I'm focusing on driving, no problem. But I have all this time that I am spending in my normal weekly commute that I could be using to record this podcast. So if I can utilize it, then I'll be able to do a lot more recording for my podcast. Um, so my last podcast, I said I wanted to start talking about consciousness, and I just started touching on it, but I had a little bit more I wanted to cover as far as my musical career and so forth. So I didn't really get to some of the topics I want to talk about. Um, so I'm taking the opportunity now to start working on that and talking about it. Um, First of all, happy Thanksgiving. It is Wednesday for me at the time of recording this, but I probably won't be releasing it until either Thanksgiving Day or afterwards. So, happy Thanksgiving! I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving to your family, with your family, and enjoyed all the time, precious time that we had to have together. So, um, yeah, now that I get that out of the way, um, consciousness. What is consciousness? It's an abstract concept to think about. Like when you think, when you have thoughts in your head, you know, who is the narrator of those thoughts? You know, if you have a fundamentalist point of view about the world, you might think that it's just like chemical reactions occurring in the mass that is up there above your eyeballs that we call the brain, that firing of synapses and stuff creates this, you know, internal monologue and external monologue and this experience that we're having on Earth. I'm not going to fault anyone for having that point of view, but that is very different than the point of view that I have. In many of the different, let's call them New Age thought philosophies, plus the older ones that I've been studying, they all have this shared concept of the human body having multiple layers. So, like, you have your physical body that you can see with your eyes, but your eyes can only see a certain spectrum, of light, and you can only hear a certain spectrum of sound. So the idea that there may be energy that exists outside of this spectrum, well, is not only commonly believed, it's scientifically proven. All right. So one of the things that is believed is that the human body exists in multiple layers and that exist in multiple dimensions. That the physical body that you see when you open your eyes and you look, like hold up your hand and look at it, has a spiritual body that is uh, either identical or very close in to your physical body that exists, that is superimposed on your physical body at all times, or well, mostly all times. And that, that your brain isn't really as much as the one, as the organ that is doing the thinking, as much as it is the organ that is in tune with this other part of your body, the light body, so to speak. And it is the one that sends and receives messages from it. So, like for example, if someone has impaired memory or some kind of um, problem with their brain, it is said by these new age philosophies that I've been studying that it isn't that they don't have the memories or they don't have the ability to um, experience consciousness uh, in a regular way, but rather that the damage to their brain just causes their ability to communicate with this other part of their being. Um, it corrupts their ability to do it. So that's what it really the problem is not that they can't remember it because the memories don't exist, or they can't have a full lucid consciousness because that lucid consciousness doesn't exist, but rather the impairment of their brain causes a communication impairment with the part of them that has those things. Um, and it is said that all things that happen are stored, from the most mundane actions to the most important moments in your life. Every single thing that happens to you is stored in a place that exists outside of the consciousness that you experience in a normal day-to-day life, and that it can be tapped into in some ways, so forth. But we're not going to get into that right now. I don't really even understand those ways in a way that would be useful to communicate anyway. But just for the sake of this conversation, is the whole understanding that at least I believe, and many other people believe, that we are more than just the physical body. It also is where the concepts of aura comes from, and the energetic component of the human body, that we are, there's a part of us that is energy. Um, and it kind of goes into too, as with us being energy, there is a part of us that extends beyond our body more than we realize. Um, with more and more New Age philosophy expanding, and really basically what I would call spirit science is evolving, the more that is kind of like known slash understood, although it really still becomes a belief. So believed about how human consciousness works, and that it is believed that there is more communication that's happening between us, us being yourself and other people around you, than than you're aware of, because it's happening outside of your conscious ability to experience it. So you can't, someone may like have an expression or something in their face, maybe they're having a bad day, for example. But like, here's an example: is like they did a study where they found that you can feel when someone's staring at you. That they did a study, and they more than half of the participants said they can tell when somebody was staring at them, even though couldn't see them. Um, they just said they knew that someone they can feel it, and that is really just a small example of something of a broader concept of this whole communication that's happening outside of the realm of normal consciousness, that some people say they have abilities to tap into or see and or experience. And I think I wouldn't be talking about this or wouldn't believe it as much as if I didn't have some of those experiences on my own. I kind of have had experiences where I think I feel or know uh, something that isn't being said or shown, by being in proximity to somebody. Um, so Before I get into the concept of telepathy, I think I want to bridge over to the concept of the, you know, the reason for living, our purpose. Um, so it is said that we are all a piece of God. Whoa. Okay. I just said the G word, dropping G bombs. I know. There's a lot of people out there who may or may not believe in God. So I'm just putting it out there. I believe in God. And what I believe is, it's not necessarily unique in that I am not the only one who believes this, but certainly not. I don't know what does any of my friends believe. We don't ever talk about this that we're hanging out like, oh, let's talk about religion. What do you believe? What do you believe? It really never comes up in conversation. Who wants to talk about that, right? So, then that I was taught from different sources, but my favorite source is the lectures and the lessons from the builders of the addendum. Is that we are all a piece of one larger consciousness, that the universe, the entire universe, all exists as pretty much just one big, super complex thought in the mind of God. Whoa, right? So that your consciousness is really, um, uh, it was explained the best, I think, by Ann Davies. She says that we have our own lagoon of consciousness, a portion of consciousness that is ours, uniquely ours, and that there is, some separation of it. It's not connected in every way to this group mass consciousness, but that there is a portion of it that is. Okay. And that I've heard it explained from another person that I follow, that it's all part of what's called the cosmic web, that we're all connected, in some way, every living person on this planet and every living thing on this planet, and then we're all connected together in a web of consciousness, and that our planet is connected to other planets that's connected to our star, and that our star is connected to other stars in a web that's connected to the center of the galaxy, which is connected to other galaxies, and that everything in the entire universe is all connected in one giant cosmic web. Right? Yeah, I know. So it's a little difficult to A, believe that, and B, wrap your head around it. But it is, I don't know, I like believing that. I guess that's why I choose to believe it. It makes sense to my logical mind. And that our experience here on Earth is that we were created as a unique expression to have a unique experience, but really every person, every living thing, everything in the universe is really comes from God, that you are just a piece of God, and that you are part of God trying to have a unique experience of itself. That you are, you're given your consciousness, your lagoon of consciousness, and you're severed off from knowledge and experience deliberately in order to have these experiences to learn and grow. But that God is really, it's like a breath, like a giant breath of God, like that lasts billions and trillions of years, and one giant breath of all this incredibly complex. I don't know, you could think of it as a simulation. I don't like to think of it that way, because reality is really real to us, right? I mean, I don't think that reality isn't real, and I don't. When I think of it in this abstract way, I don't believe that we're just like a hologram. Um, what's the word? Like the holodeck, from Star Trek. Like we're just some kind of simulation, right? That that God created us and made us separate on purpose in order to let us have experiences, and then through our experiences, God has those experiences too, and shares them. We all share them. And yeah, it really is hard to explain this concept because it's incredibly abstract, right? But the idea is that since we are all connected, there in some way is some connection to each other that exists outside the realm of our perception. And that is where this telepathy comes in, that we're communicating in ways that we cannot see, hear, or feel. Well, feel in like touch, feel. So the this also kind of gets into the concept of reincarnation. So the Christian belief of life and death is, I don't think they really embrace the idea of reincarnation. That's more of a Western philosophy. Um, I believe it more because I prefer to believe it. I mean, I don't like the idea, like the Star Trek idea of like you live, then you die, and nothing. There's nothing that's once your consciousness is turned off, you don't have, and and once the energy dies, there's nothing left of you. You're just done. You're you don't live anymore. I prefer to believe the idea that I am a light body that has physical body experiences over and over again. That I'm trying to learn more and more each time. You know, in one of these Facebook groups I was in, one of the posts they had a few weeks ago was like, "What is the purpose of death?" Like, right? Couldn't we just have one really big long life and just learn it all in one life? Why do we have to die and then be reborn? And there's a very simple answer to that. Because most people, if not nearly all people, get to a point in their lives where they don't continue to expand like their knowledge or their experience, that they kind of stop, you know, that the it may be a physiological thing because we reach old age and we don't have the same impetus as we did when we were younger to continue to learn and expand our knowledge and experience and evolve. But that that we are, how do I put this? That, yeah, we have to be knocked down and start over again so we can have another opportunity to learn more, that we stagnate later in life. And that, if we lived 500 years, we probably would live the last 400 years exactly like we lived from our 80s to our 100, exactly the same way. We wouldn't, if we had extra time in one body, would we continue to learn more? Would we continue to expand? And that's the reason why we have to have these journeys that begin and end, so that way we can have another chance to push forward in a new life. You know, and I don't know. I just want to believe that because I want to believe that for my own life, that when someday when my time comes, that even though my physical body may die, that my light body is, I believe it's indestructible. That's why I've been told that it exists outside of the physical body in a way that nothing can destroy it, and it should live forever. And that the the whole purpose of even living at all is to, well, twofold, right? To learn, to learn more from the lessons that you can learn from being alive and expanding your experience, but also to have experience, to not only the good but the bad, but the feel, to have experience in a realm where there's consequences, where there's sadness and sorrow and hurt and hate, and that all that bad stuff is here, but it's there to create the entire rainbow of experience and emotion that we're here to experience. Now, one of the things that may impede, even at times, even my own ability to believe this idea that God is everything and we are all a piece of God, is how immensely evil can be, right? So you would think that everybody, if we're all a piece of God, why is there some this incredibly heinous evil in the world? You know, what what would drive someone to do some of these incredibly evil things? And I don't want to, what all those things are. I don't have to speak on them, because your mind's eye can immediately jump to what I'm trying to infer are the most evil evils that exist in this world. So why does that even exist? Why does the devil exist, right? Um, and that gets explained away very simply and stupidly by a lot of I don't know, New Age um, lecturers and so forth, by the concept of as above, so below, so they say. That God has to, well, but let me explain it in a way that's not so stupid. That God has to cast the shadow of these bad things to make the light brighter, right? So that that the good is experienced and it's appreciated more, that it is brighter. The better times are better because the bad times are so bad. And that is the idea, is that, if everything was just good, then no one would care. It would just be good, and good would be good, and no one would be, the whole concept of good bad wouldn't even really exist. So in order for us to have a full rainbow of experience, we have to have the bad. And you'd hate to think that God wants that to exist, but in order for our world to exist, it was, for lack of a better word, programmed into our consciousness to have the ability to have these thoughts. And the nicest person, I gotta say that, I I would like to think that I more often than not have good thoughts, but evil thoughts do enter my mind. We're all human beings. So if you say that 100% of the day you don't ever have an evil thought, or in your entire life you've never done something evil, you know, it, it comes in definitely varying degrees of amplitude, right? So, like, for example, you really dislike a, a political, this is probably one of the most innocent examples, is like you strongly dislike a political figure. They do something that they make some decision that you strongly disagree with, or whatever, if you're really into politics and so forth. And you imagine them like, oh, if someone were to take them out, wink, wink, in your mind, something happening to them. And in a sad, dark way, you think that would almost be good, that that is just a small taste of the rainbow that exists below the middle, so to speak, of the good and evil. And like, again, another innocent version is like, oh, there's a mosquito in your room, that like, I want to kill it. there's a little bit of drive there that's beyond the like practical reason, like, well, I don't want to get bitten. There's like something that exists below the surface that makes you want to kill it, right? And that is a very simple and innocent version of evil, or the other side of the as above, so below. If you think of good being above and bad being below. Um, I think this is all I want to get to today. Um, I've touched on a few of these subjects. I think I want to continue talking about this topic because there's a lot more to talk about. No, it's just something I find interesting anyway. And also, too, again, back to the original reason why I wanted to make this podcast. I want to see if there's anybody else out there who thinks or feels the same way I do, to share, their thoughts with me, and to get out there to see if we are all on the same page. But one last thought to tie this all up: that if we are here, all pieces of God, and we all realize that that's the reason why we're here, then our true purpose is to be the best human being that we can as possible. Because if you're a piece of God, that means also everybody else is too. And you want to be the best that you can be for not not only the practical reasons of just being a person is good for the world, but it also because if you want to become closer to God, the way is not, by giving up all your worldly possessions and hiding in a cave and meditating all day. It's by being the best contributing member of society as you can be, to connect to these other pieces of God. All right. Well, thanks again for listening to the Nick Arsenault podcast. Again, I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you on the flip side. Thanks again for listening. And of course, thanks again so much for all your love and support.